And the heart of housing problem solving, it really sounds like, is that conversation. That conversation, whether it's somebody you've been working with for a while or whether it's somebody you just met. How do you start that conversation? What's the road in?
Here's what the road is not. It is not a survey. It is not a checklist. It is not, well, I asked them if they had any friends or family they could stay with. It is not, well, I asked them where they stayed last night. Those are two questions I ban when you're starting one of these conversations. And the reason for that is because if it was easy, they would have done it.
Right. If I had some place to stay besides here, I would be there and not here talking to you, right?
Right. And so people may not know what kind of support we offer, and that our support isn't just for people who are in the shelter or already on the street. We can support people in a lot of ways to help them stay housed, right? And so when somebody is starting these conversations, I want you to imagine how you would want someone to treat a loved one, right? If they were facing homelessness. Because the way I would want someone to be approached in my life is I would want them to go, oh my goodness, this is really difficult. Can you tell me what's been going on lately? Because I have to tell you, it can be really hard once you're here. And so I want to see if there's anything we can do so that you don't have to, stay in our system. Even though we focus on the 2 weeks prior to someone experiencing homelessness, diversion, or the 2 weeks after they've just entered homelessness, rapid exit, right? We focus on that sort of month window around the front door of homelessness, right? We don't want to limit people by that. And I have a story here, actually. So I was working with a veteran who was in Virginia, and he'd been living in a place, he'd been there for 8 years. And the gentleman who owned the home died, and his daughter took over and was selling the home, which happens all the time. And as a result, he had to be out by the end of the month. And he started looking around. He was a go-getter. He was looking for apartments. He was figuring out his budget. He was doing the groundwork. And he called a program for help because he had found an apartment on his own, right? And he could make the continuous rent, right? He could do the monthly, but he didn't have savings for the security deposit. And so he called a program asking if they could help him with about $750 for the security deposit. And they said, I'm sorry, based on what you've told us, you're 18 days from experiencing homelessness, so call us back when it's 14. Obviously, in many housing markets across the country, if you have to wait, that apartment is gone. What we want from housing problem solving is not to limit providers with arbitrary lines in the sand about, oh, I'm sorry, I can't help you because you don't have 14 days, you have 15 days. We don't need that, right? If someone has a rapid exit option and they're at day 20 in your shelter, let's do it, right? Let's do it. So yes, we want to focus on that entry period because that's where we find the most bang for our buck. That's where we find that we can identify somebody who's truly at risk, right? Not somebody who's a couple months out and might really figure something else out in the meantime, but that real window where we can make a big difference. But that doesn't mean we need to limit ourselves, and we don't need to limit the conversations we're having.
I can imagine situations where someone that you're talking to says, look, I've tried everything. I wouldn't be here if I hadn't. How do you respond and move forward with housing problem solving?
Well, I will say one thing up front, which is that I am not saying that 100% of your clients tomorrow are going to become housing problem solving cases. I don't think anyone thinks that. The goal here is that we are able to help about 25% of individuals, right? And about 30% of families. And we are seeing people across, like communities across the country, that are able to hit more than that, right? Over the course of 5 years, once they've got funding and once they've got training and once they've got culture.